panic button, or just gently tap the panic button on the Just Baseball show presented by BetMGM. Sign up using the promo code Just Baseball to bet with the king of sportsbooks. Jack, Peter, for Friday, April 7th, we're going to have JustBaseball.com's managing editor Ryan Finkelstein on to grill the living shit out of him on the New York Mets. But first, the panic button on everybody else. We were very positive with Arm Layton yesterday. Today, we get to do our favorite thing, which is be really negative.
Maybe your favorite thing.
It's
I like
not
being
my
both positive.
thing.
Yeah, it's not our favorite thing, but there was a lot of positives throughout the opening week of Major League Baseball. But there are some really, really good teams that are off to really, really slow starts. And it'd be dumb to press the panic button on any singular team at this point in the season. But the conversation today will surround about some of the problems early on and whether we think they can be fixed with ease or whether those problems could continue.
Right. And we're not going to be talking about Colorado, who's off to a 2-4 start, or Kansas City, who's off to a 1-5 start, because we were expecting those teams to be bottom dwellers. We're going to talk about the teams that we were thinking could contend for division titles that are not doing so whatsoever. And we're going to save the Mets conversation for the back 20, 30 minutes, because a lot of it is in regards to Francisco Alvarez coming up maybe for good with Omar Narvaez out for 2 months now. So he'll be up for the season or for the home opener today. But we're going to talk Cardinals, Phillies, Red Sox, and Mariners off the top. Let's start with the Cardinals here because they just got swept by Atlanta at home. Atlanta looks excellent. However, the Cardinals are in a bit of disarray right now. They've got a -3 run differential. So you know what? The record isn't as bad as the run differential shows. However, it feels like they're not gelling like the typical Cardinal team that we're seeing. And this is almost like in spite of every positive effort that Jordan Walker is making, who's off to an excellent start in his major league career.
Yeah, Taylor Motter's leading this team in OPS right now at 1,500. He only has 2 at-bats, though, and he has 1 hit. But it was a double, and he smacked it. Yeah, the offense isn't really to blame. I mean, you can look at Nolan Arenado and his 679 OPS, but the guy's still hitting 300. He's just not hitting for power yet, and it's very early. Tommy Edman, same thing, getting on base, just the OPS is not there. It hasn't been the offense. The offense is not the problem. Sometimes it doesn't show up against a guy like Dylan Dodd, and you throw that out the window and say that's baseball. That's over a 162-game schedule. My biggest concern is Miles Mikolas, who looks like he's throwing batting practice right now. The command isn't there. It looks like everything is down the middle and just nothing looks good. I haven't watched a Miles Mikolas start where I'm like, oh, that was even a good batter. That was 2 good pitches in a row. And the reason I bring him up is because he has been the consistent, right? Adam Wainwright goes on the IL. Even last year, you can always rely on Miles Mikolas giving you a quality start. That has been the story now for a while, and we were concerned about 3, 4, 5 in this rotation. But if Miles Mikolas, the consistency isn't there for that team, that's worrisome because we knew that the bottom of the rotation would have its issues. But if Mikolas isn't performing, and if Wainwright comes back and is not performing, then it's your offense has to score 6 to 7 runs to stay in the game. And we saw what happened against the Braves. They just piled on too quickly, and then the game was over if the offense didn't show up that day. So my biggest concern for the Cardinals, I'm not pressing the panic button. They're still very good. They might have the best offense in baseball. But Mikolas is someone who I'm watching thinking to myself, ugh, that is a bad start.
And everybody else kind of off of that. And Flaherty is the one starter who has been quote unquote good. And that was a really loaded conversation that, we've had a couple times on this show this week now. But, Flaherty, 5 innings, no hits. He did walk 7. But you look at every other guy that has made a start. Steven Matz, 5 1/3 innings, 10 hits against him. Mikolas, 9 1/3, 19 hits. Opponents hitting .417 against Matz, .413 against Mikolas. Then you go to Jamont. Opponents are hitting 300, 5 innings and 6 hits against him. And then you go to Jake Woodford, 4 1/3, 7 hits. So it's not that these guys aren't finding the strike zone. Their one quote unquote good start through the rotation, he wasn't finding the strike zone. Everybody else just kind of stinks within the strike zone right now, which is nerve-wracking.
watching Michaelis throw it down the middle at 92, I was thinking, like, if you
Nerve-wracking.
gave me 100 times, 100 ABs against Michaelis right now, I'm like, I can get a hit. A hit.
Yeah.
But if I can get a hit off you right now,
A major leaguer can get 40 in 100 ABs.
And they're getting 41.3 hits technically by the batting average.
Yes.
So that was the concern moving in. That's why it's like, don't press the panic button on the Cardinals, but it's important to talk about what worried us at the beginning of the season and has already started worse than I think we even imagined, right? Like, we didn't think they'd be this bad. I thought Monty would be solid. It's still early. I know, Cardinals fans. I know. But when all of them have been bad, all of them,
it's every Cardinals fan's worst nightmare coming to life first turn through the rotation, which is brutal. You know what I mean? It's everything else looks good, and then you've got this, and I think that's what is contributing to Ali Marmol's short fuse. And we talked about this briefly on yesterday's show, but you know, the rift between Ali Marmol and Tyler O'Neill is so juvenile from the managerial perspective. Like, again, we talked about this, so we're not going to go too deep into it, but I thought Tyler O'Neill was the one that handled that like a pro, and the manager wasn't. So that tells me that the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals is incredibly frustrated right now, and he's willing to air out things about one of his best players to the media, and that's not something that a guy does when everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Imagine you're Ollie Marmol and you have to mix and match a lineup with 12 guys who could be starting right now, and you look at your starting pitcher and be like, guys, we got to hit today. And he probably puts his head down on the pillow at night and says, man, it'd be really cool if we traded for a pitcher. Now, that's all conjecture. He might not even be thinking about that. But I would if I was the manager of the Cardinals, watching this team, knowing that my offense is so legit, seeing another hitter take a leap in a Jordan Walker, seeing Mason Wynn have a good start to his minor league, season so far. Super early, but he is a very good prospect. Again, offensively, like, what's stopping them from bringing up Libby right now?
I don't know. I guess they want to see him do it again. Again, he had a great start on minor league opening night last Friday.
Would he be worse than some of these guys?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, yes, last year.
Yes,
this year I don't think so.
We've seen more improvements. But
we've seen one start. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they need to see 2 or 3 to see if this actually sticks.
You're right. They should see if Jake Woodford will stick. Like, what are we doing here? Right? Well, like, what are we doing here?
I was speaking more to Libby. Like, I think they should give Libby 1 or 2 more starts in AAA to see if the stuff's actually real. Like, he was throwing 98. When he's 94, 95,
let him throw those bullets in the bigs. Like, if he's got it right now, use it. Like, you could get a win if he's throwing 98 with that curveball. That's elite. Yeah. That plays right now. Why not put him in the rotation right now? What if those bullets start to disappear? At least you got a win out of them. Like, in the early goings when he throws 7 shutout, because 98 with the curveball is awesome. And then let's say he has 3 minor league starts, Jack, and then he's back down to 94, 95, and he just threw like a multiple no-hitter in the minor leagues. Like, what are we doing? He's ready. You brought him up last year. It's not like this is a prospect who's 20. It's not like an Andrew Painter where he hasn't made his big league debut yet. You brought him up last year with less bullets. Why not this year?
Fair. I guess I'm thinking about him like a top prospect when I shouldn't be thinking about him like a top prospect, because he's not.
Played in Major League Baseball last year.
Yeah. And he wasn't good. And he wasn't good last year. Like, he lost any of that prospect pedigree. So
I'm shrugging. I'm audibly shrugging.
You're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Is that what you needed to hear?
No, you're not wrong. You didn't say anything wrong. Yeah, no, I know. We're trying to figure out why they're doing what they're doing. Why John Mozeliak is doing what he's doing, and I don't understand it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something that they know that I don't. I just don't understand it. So I'm sitting here like an idiot, not having an explanation for the beautiful listeners of the Just Baseball Show.
I think I'm coming around to your point, though, especially because Libby sucked last year. Like, I almost thought that the verdict was in, and the verdict was like the jury's out on Libby. You know what I mean? Like, I thought, hey, we've made a decision. We're pretty out on him being a part of this rotation. Obviously, when he looks that good last week, then we're looking at him in a different light. He starts one of the games of the doubleheader tonight. We're recording on Thursday afternoon, so he'll have started in AAA last night. But if he was good again, I think I'm with you, man. Like, there's no point in letting him wilt away in Memphis when he could be spelling Jake Woodford, or you give Michaelis a time through the rotation just to clear your head and be like, dude, figure this shit out right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like John Mozeliak is that guy in your fantasy baseball league who you call and say, hey, I want to make a trade. And he's like, well, all my players are better than yours. And you look at his roster and you're like, yeah, they're good, but we can make a deal, right? And they're just, then maybe they agree to one and then they say, let me sleep on it. Then they sleep on it. It's like, I just can't give this guy up. He's too like much of a pussy, for a lack of a better word. like, dude, be aggressive. You're the Cardinals. The window is open. Let's go. Right?
You're saying
this is the last year Wainwright. Michaelis is getting older. What are you going to do? Like, you got to go. This is it. The Brewers are supposed to be rebuilding and they're kicking the shit out of you.
Yeah, you're saying that Mozeliak needs a little bit more AJ Preller in him, and Preller needs a little bit more Mozeliak in him.
Exactly. Like, they should bond.
Yeah.
They should
create
do this
a
for all
mega
the people on YouTube.
Perfect. Cohesion. That would be great.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, let's move to the Phillies here, who are 1-5 with a minus 24 run differential, which is the worst in the National League. And guess what? In all of baseball. Rome's kind of falling at Philadelphia right now, man. It feels weird off the top. Now, what I will say is something incredibly encouraging was I was watching Phillies, Yankees, Nola, and Cole. And in the third or fourth inning, they showed video that morning of Bryce Harper pumping balls out of Yankee Stadium, taking batting practice. So it looks like he could be a month away or so. Maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks based on like some of that BP view, which would be insane. He beats that look. He beats that estimated timeline by, 6 weeks to 2 months. But even when Harper comes back, I don't know, like, how confident are you with this depleted team right now? You're dealing with no Hoskins, no Harper. Nola looked better in his second start than he did his first. We'll see what Wheeler looks like again, but it's just kind of been a first turn through the rotation from hell.
Yeah, like, the Phillies are way different from the Cardinals because I didn't see like a big weakness and it's like, oh, that huge weakness is getting exposed right now. Like, we have to make changes. As simple as it sounds, the Phillies just aren't playing that well right now. Right? Like, Bryson Stott is off to an amazing start, got an OPS over 1,000. We predicted that he was kind of going to be that breakout player at second base. He's doing really well right now. Yeah. It's not like Trey Turner came over and it's like, oh man, he's slumping in his new dreads, right? Yeah. No, he looks great.
Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber has a couple of bombs. Like, they're just not hitting with runners in scoring position. They're getting kind of unlucky. They're still hitting the ball decently hard. Aaron Nola lost to a really good Yankees team, but still pitched pretty well. I'm excited to see Wheeler's second turn through the rotation. They're without Ranger. They're without Painter. Taijuan Walker in his first start in the Phillies uniform didn't pitch great. Right after Sunday Night Baseball, they got screwed against the Rangers on Sunday Night Baseball. I don't really have any concerns, but it's funny. They're doing worse than the Cardinals. So as simple as it sounds, they're just playing bad baseball, and I'm not worried about them, I guess.
Maybe you are. I'm not, because like Schwarber's hitting $150 through his first 26 ABs, but he's got a couple of bombs, like you mentioned. That's going to get up to the low 200s, and that'll be that. The one that I'm like genuinely, are we done with him, is Nick Castellanos. 6 games, 22 ABs. He's got 12 punch outs, no homers. He's got a sub 600 OPS. Castellanos, after a shit year last year, I'm just worried that the ship is sailing on him when I don't want it to. Because when Castellanos is good, that's a whole nother level of the Philadelphia Phillies that we haven't seen. And he's really fun when he's really good. He's just not fun at all right now.
Yeah, those concerns have to be there because it's not like he can hedge with great defense, right? He's a hole in right field.
Yeah,
he's a hole in right field. Like, right now, Nick Castellanos has a .1 WAR, even though he has a couple of RBIs. He has 3 walks, but he's striking out a bunch. Like, he's not giving you any value defensively. So it's not like you have to keep his bat in the lineup because he rakes and he's bad defensively. Like, he's not hitting and he's not playing good defense in right field. But the Phillies don't really have any other options right now, especially without Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
And they may not, because we don't know how Harper's going to be in the field, dealing with his specific injuries. They're just, and I understand, like, if I'm going to slightly say I'm worried about Miles Michaelis, you have to continue to say you're worried about Nick Castellanos. Like, one is similar to the other, where we were worried about him going into the year, and now he's proving us right, per se, even though it's so early. It's just so early. Like, we podcast every day. We want to talk about these teams. We want to talk about the shortfalls. But, I just need to see more from Castellanos. Like, it's been so early. It's not like he's having garbage ABs. Like, he's not having good ABs, but it's not like he's such a hole where it's, like, embarrassing. He still hits some balls hard. I just need more. I just need more time. But it is, like I think you said, start watching this. Because it's 162 games plus.
Right.
It's not, he had a great season last year, starts off slow, and we're like, oh, what's wrong? This has been happening. We predicted it coming out of Great American. Because he's a merchant. So let's see, right? It's something to watch. It's continuing. And it better not continue, because if it does, the Phillies have a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, that would just be a massive spot that you're forfeiting in the 5 or 6 hole in their lineup. Level of concern regarding Aaron Nola, who was thrust into an ace-off on Wednesday. It was cold. He goes 6, allows 7 hits and 3 earned against the Yankees. The Yankees offense is doing pretty well right now, I'd say. But Cole is like untouchable right now, so it felt like they were going to lose that game. Nola's got a 7.5 ERA through his first 2 starts. Are you at all concerned, or is this just a, hey, it's April 6th, Jack, shut the hell up?
It's April 6th.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him at all. I thought he pitched pretty well against the Yankees. Some unfortunate batted ball luck. The Yankees are playing really well right now, too. Like, Aaron Judge is still, carrying over his success from last year. Gleyber Torres is playing with his hair on fire. Anthony Rizzo without the shift. Like, the Yankees are playing really, really good baseball right now. And on the road in cold weather, he ran into a hot Yankees team. Like, that just happens. Like, every game has its own context. And I thought Aaron Nola pitched reasonably well. Did he pitch really well? No, of course not. You're an ace. You give up 7 hits in a game. That's a bad start. When we hold you to an ace standard, you give up 7 hits in any start. That's a bad start for an ace. But at the same time, it's April 6th. He has such a long track record of incredible success. I think he's going to be totally fine.
Yeah, fair. The Boston Red Sox, they're not going to be totally fine. They just got swept by the Pirates at Fenway. They are now losing 3-2 in the 5th at Comerica Park in the Tigers' home opener. Chris Sale has allowed 3 runs through 4 innings. He started his outing with 8 straight balls. This team lacks, I don't want to say fire, but like, they lack any sort of, I'm that MF, I'm going to go win us a ball game guy, which is just terrifying.
It does feel flat. And this could, blow up in my face. I do have the Tigers money line today, and I have the under. And I just watched this past series with the Red Sox and Pirates, and they looked as flat as humanly possible. They go from, holy moly, this offense is rolling, against the Orioles with wind blowing out. Then the weather wasn't on their side, and they're getting shut out. Like, Roansy Contreras and Mitch Keller, good pitchers, not aces.
But they look like Nola and Wheeler. Yeah.
They look like Nolan Wheeler, 12 2/3, 1 earned run, right? That's unacceptable in my eyes. Like, that is unacceptable if you want to be a team over 500. Now, they could right the ship, of course, but Yoshida is a guy who's really slowed down, right? 600 OPS. Yeah. You can't expect Adam Duvall to put up, like, hit 400 all year.
No,
like, Devers hit a home run in this game, but, like, they just look really flat, and there's no unit on the field where I say, oh, wow, they're so good defensively. Not really. Oh, wow, they're so good offensively. They have a good offense. Oh, look at the starting pitching. It doesn't look good, even though Kluber gave them a good outing against a, with all due respect, poverty offense in the Pirates. The bullpen is, like, John Schreiber came in fine, gave up a run. Like, there's just not a lot to love with the Red Sox right now. And then it looks even worse when they look flat, like you're saying, because I thought that was, you said it perfectly. There's no energy. Like it just feels
There's
like
nothing.
it feels like they're going to their 9 to 5 and just clocking in, clocking out. It doesn't look like
There's
they're
no,
having any fun, right? You lose Bogarts, you lose JD, and you lose kind of that edge a little bit.
yeah, and like Devers is hitting 310 with a 920 OPS right now through 7 games. Like that feels
He's
pretty
awesome.
on. He's awesome. He's great, but I'm worried that he is to the Red Sox what like we've talked about Luis Ariz being to the Marlins, where he's great, everybody else blows. Tristan Casas is hitting a $143 in 7 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what if it's Devers and nobody else? That's my concern. I think Yoshida is going to flirt with 300. I think he's a really good hitter. I think Casas is going to get a lot better when it's not cold as shit outside. But Devers has adjusted because he's a good hitter. Show me that you are a good hitter, Tristan Casas. Show me that you're a good hitter, Masataka Yoshida. Please, somebody do it. And then the starting rotation, I mean, Cutter Crawford sucked. Chris Sale has sucked. Corey Kluber has been a bore to watch. There's
I love
nothing.
Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber like threw it a good start, and you're just like, it was so boring.
It's boring, dude. Is it not?
No, you're completely spot on. That's why it's funny. You know, there's truth in comedy. It's right. It was 88 to 90, and it was just like, yeah, he got outs, but it wasn't impressive. Like against the Pirates at home, that wasn't impressive.
That's the thing, man. This is the first Boston Red Sox team in a decade that we're saying, yeah, aside from Devers, there just really isn't anything impressive on this team right now.
Because the Red Sox are built on that FU attitude, the edge. Like
And
they just come in and they think they
it?
can beat anybody. And where is it? I agree. You get swept by the Pirates. Shape up. And we're yelling at their fans right now. But
sorry.
Like, in case Adam Duvall is a beautiful listener of the Just Baseball show, show up. Actually, Adam Duvall's
been great
example because he's been the only good one. But Kike, show up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys, like, you need more. Justin Turner, show up. Guys like that. But the Red Sox, like, I still think they're a 77 win team. Right? They get good starts. Sometimes the offense goes crazy. I still think they're a 77 win team. So we'll see how they do.
Fourth or fifth?
Fifth. I think the Orioles are good. And it's not because I think the Red Sox are so bad that I think they finished last. I'm just high on the Orioles. I liked their offense a lot. And I still think that they're a good team. And I was impressed with G-Rod, which is huge for them. Like the Red Sox don't have a G-Rod.
No.
They have Brian Bayo, who's not up yet. Like they don't have that. Like they have Whitlock, I guess, coming back, but he doesn't have the upside that G-Rod does. Like Cole Irvin would be the ace on this Red Sox team right now. You could say Chris Sale, and yeah, he started with 8 balls. Then he struck out the next 3 guys. Then he gave up a home run to Jake Rogers. Shout out Jake Rogers. Like
Sale's tough, man. Sale is such a tough nut to
dude,
crack.
he's throwing 92. He's throwing 92. I want him to be
so good. So
I love Chris Sale. I think he's such a dog. I love his mentality. And that's the edge, right? He's not pitching with that, I'm going to blow it by you and you can't do shit about it.
But my thing is, maybe he just physically can't anymore, which sucks.
That would suck if that's the case. But he was up to 95, 96 in his first start, and then now it's 92? Like, no way. He just got so old the past week.
Again, we're talking about like Florida boys and Kike is Puerto Rican. Like all these guys not stepping up, but it's like, it's cold as shit outside.
It is
like,
cold as shit. Like that's the only reason Spencer Torkelson was bad last year, because it was cold and he's used to playing in Arizona.
Exactly. That was the only reason. Last team that we got to talk about before we get to Ryan Finkelstein and the Mets is Seattle. Seattle is 2-5 right now, and they have been handed 2 very difficult series to open up their season. Granted, both of which were at home. They hosted Cleveland for a weekend set, and then they hosted the Angels. Cleveland's a good team. The Angels have looked like a good team against Seattle so far, man. I know Ohtani threw well yesterday. Ohtani's great, dude. Ohtani, like indisputably the best player on earth right now.
Oh, I mean, I want him to go to New York selfishly. Like, I kind of want him to go to the Mets or the Yankees just so I can watch the rest of his career in person. That's it. Like, I just want to be able to go to the ballpark and be like, I get to watch Shohei Ohtani today. The greatest
Yeah.
player I've ever seen with my own two eyes. He's such a he's a rocket ship. He's not from this planet.
He is such a treat. You're right. Um, they've been dealt a lot of tough losses. They did get a win 11-2 over LA on Tuesday, but on Monday night, George Kirby goes 4 1/3 and allows 9 hits and 4 earned. So there have just been some speed bumps for Seattle. At 2-5, to be quite honest, I'm not concerned with them at all. So all the negative energy that I just had in regards to the Red Sox, I don't have much negative energy whatsoever when it comes to the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, the Mariners are experiencing the waves of Teoscar Hernandez, right? You start off really slow. Blue Jays fans know good and well the ebbs and flows of Teoscar. When Teoscar is hot, sometimes I say he's the best hitter on planet Earth. He is amazing. He can go stretches where he hits 500 with like a home run every day. It's unbelievable. Mariners fans, you're going to become accustomed to the Teoscar Hernandez wave. Just watch. Right now, he's starting off slow. Wait till that man gets hot. You can't get him out. Right now, he's starting off slow, but he's already starting to tick up, right? I think he started 0 for 10, and now he's already got a 718 OPS. So he's starting to heat up a little bit. JP Crawford is, walking, but not enough. I guess the one concern I have with the Mariners, because their pitchers had some bad starts, like George Kirby's not going to look like that again.
No.
We sure Cal Raleigh is a stud offensively? Like, is he a guy who had just a great year last year? Like, Mike Zunino has put up years where he hit 40 bombs and then hits 180. Like, Cal Raleigh doesn't have a ton of prospect pedigree, and he's off to a slow start, so I'm not even saying that what I'm saying is true. It's just something a guy had a really good year, kind of came out of nowhere, and then starting off slow. Not saying anything, just something to watch. Is he the guy? Is he the big dumper that we thought he was?
Yeah, so I'll be on record saying that I am a big Cal Raleigh guy. I think that he is a very talented hitter. I think that he is a good defender. And I think that he has insane pop. We just have yet to see the pop through the first 7. But, I mean, we are talking about a guy that is hitting, like 270 in the early goings. I want to say he's played 6 or 7 games, and he's hitting 270, 280. Yeah, 273 through his first 6 games.
Yeah.
So he's got 6 hits, 3 of which doubles. He's driven in 5. So he's rocking a 682 OPS right now. I'm not worried about Cal Raleigh. The two that I am a little worried about, Colton Wong has looked like ass. He's 1 for 16 to open his season. And then Kelenic, man, he's 3 for 15 with 7 punch outs. What is Kelenic?
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you?
Yeah, because it's not like he looks great defensively either.
No, it's like, give me a clue into who you're going to be as a player. Because, we were talking about this guy as a future all-star, and we're talking about this guy that doesn't even look like he's major league caliber, and then he goes back down, and then he has an awesome spring, and it's like, okay, yes, if Kelenic is good, then this Mariners team is great. And Kelenic, honestly, I would have more closure if he and Colton Wong flipped lines and Kelenic was 1 for 16. Because I'd be like, yep, that's Kelenic. He's just not going to be good at the major league level in the regular season. He's an excellent AAA player, but he is a tweener. I can't find resolution about him. And the thing that kills me the most about him is, yes, he's got some juice, but this guy with that build, with that athletic prowess, should not be striking out as often as he does.
Yeah.
And here we are looking at Kelenic, with 7 Ks and 16 plate appearances, and we're just saying, oh, same old, same old. So if there's anybody to have frustration with, I'd say give Colton Wong a couple more games, see if he has a 3 for 4 day, because that elevates him to 200. But Kelenic would certainly be the source of my frustration there.
Absolutely. The Mariners are kind of like the Phillies to me, where I think to myself, they're just not playing really good baseball right now. I'm not really that worried. Like Luis Castillo.
He looks amazing.
He looks amazing. So let's see. Oh, Rafael Devers just hit a double to center field. Red Sox are going home. Let's see. Oh, I dropped the ball.
Ouch.
High ball game. Maybe the Red Sox are back. But yeah, just going back to the Mariners thing, I think it's tough because you watch as a Mariners fan, I am been on the bandwagon of this team is going to win the World Series, and they're just not clicking right now. But my main takeaway from the Mariners is, of all the contenders that started off poorly, I'm the least concerned with them.
Yes, same. I think in terms of most concerned to least concerned, least concerned to most concerned. Mariners, I'm the least concerned. Then it's St. Louis. Then it's Philly. And then we never called the Red Sox like contenders, but the Red Sox, I'm the most concerned that this is valid. This is what this season may look like.
I think for me is I'm not concerned with the Mariners, and I put the Phillies and Cardinals in the I'm not really concerned, but there are things that I'm watching. And then the Red Sox, I just am concerned.
Yeah, fair. And you get our answer now with Ryan Finkelstein and the Mets. Managing editor Ryan Finkelstein, also the host of Locked On Mets, is wearing his LFGM shirt. He's got his Binghamton Rumble Ponies hat. He's got his Mets flag in the background. So Fink, on a scale of 1 to Rome has fallen, how fallen is Rome in regards to the New York Mets?
We're all good, man. It's sunshine and rainbows. Alvarez is up. Come on. I don't even remember what happened the last 3 days.
No, and I'm really excited to talk about a lot of the young prospects, because as a team that's really in a rebuild right now and more looking forward to next year, taking it slow this year, like we all knew that it wasn't this year, probably not next either. I'm really excited to talk about the AA team, maybe the high A team, international prospects that we're looking at. So I'm excited for the rebuild, and I'm sure you are too.
That's why I got my Rumble Ponies hat on. I mean, it's all about the AA, you know, a lot of talent down there, because the MLB club didn't look too talented in Milwaukee. I admit it was a rough series.
I should have included the sun emoji in my text to Fink this morning, asking him to hop on the Just Baseball show, because he knew damn well that we were just going to be dicks to him. I totally know that.
What's funny is I was like, I think I said I guess to you. I was like, I guess I'll come on. I was like, I really don't even want this appearance on the Just Baseball show. And then like the Alvarez news just gave me an olive branch. I'm like, all right, I can go on with a smile, because at least there's something I'm excited about.
Let's get the negative shit out of the way first, and then we can get to Alvarez. You cool with that?
Can I talk about the scope of the NL East fans right now? Phillies fans are on fire. Braves fans are the most confident fan base alive. Marlins fans are more depressed than maybe any fan base in Major League Baseball after what happened to Jazz in their slow start to the season. And Nationals fans, I think, have already given up. And then there's this Mets fan base. This division right now, the National League East, the fans are the funniest group of people on the earth right now.
Dude, it's another year. It's every year. Every year we get so hyped that the NL East is going to rival the AL East this year. Everything's going to be great. And then, you know, right out of the gates, 2 teams are going to fall on their face, and the Braves are always going to still be good. That's typically how it goes.
This Milwaukee series, coupled with Atlanta sweeping the Cardinals in St. Louis, this Milwaukee series would not sting the way it did if Atlanta didn't sweep the Cardinals here. Let's be frank there, because obviously you're measuring against the Atlanta Braves. They're going to do that all year long, and both sides are dealing with, injuries aplenty right now, and you can see it in the starting rotation, right? Kyle Wright, his velo is very down in Gwinnett 2 nights ago, so Wright might not even be ready. We know Fried's missing a start or 2. Schuster looked like ass, but you've got Verlander on the IL, and you've got guys that are getting beaten to a pulp by the Milwaukee Brewers. And we talked about the Brewers on yesterday's show. This is one of the most exciting offenses in baseball through the first week of the season. But give me your level of concern when it comes to the pitching staff right now. No Diaz on the back end, but in the rotation as well.
On a scale of 9 to 10.
9 to 10. That's my scale. Tough. 9.5. Overall, I think that I'm not too concerned, because Max Scherzer, I don't think that this is going to be a complete regression where because he turned 38 or whatever he's just going to fall off a cliff. I do think the fact that he's given up 3 home runs or 4 home runs in the first 2 starts is a little bit eye-popping.
Not 5.
Maybe he's not going to pitch to a low 2 ERA this year, but I think he'll be fine. Kodai Senga looked awesome, so I'm still hanging on to every one of those starts right now. But look, this is a staff that, lost Quintana in spring. Verlander gets hurt on opening day. That's when we find out the news. And, it's a little bit of, trying to scramble for answers. And the bullpen got taxed really early. And so even there, they were so thin yesterday. But I'm not going to overreact to 1 week of baseball. I'm just not. Overall, I still think that they're throwing out a quality starter pretty much every fifth day. The only guy that I'm actually concerned about is he going to stick in the rotation this year is Carlos Carrasco. That's the only guy that I look at and say, there's no chance. McGill is already a fill-in. When Verlander comes back, he gets bumped. And if Carrasco continues to struggle, McGill's the guy that can grab that spot. So I still think they're okay, but I understand why people are freaking out.
I want to apologize to you and to Mets fans everywhere because I want to remove some karma from myself. Opening day, because I do like the Mets. Like, I went to Citi Field probably 20 times last year. I love going to Mets games. I love watching them do well. I just like New York sports. Like, I'm not one of those guys where I love the Yankees, hate the Mets. Like, I want both teams to go well. My dream is to have the Mets face the Yankees in the World Series and be able to go to all 7 games. So I'm always rooting for the Mets. But at the same time, I do find it funny when bad things happen to the Mets because you see the outcry from the fans and it's just the classic, they're the Mets. Yeah. So what I want to remove, karma, because, right, I'm a betting man. I want all the good karma possible. I did laugh when Justin Verlander started the year on the IL with an armpit injury. I did laugh, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, but I did laugh. So moving on from that, are we good? Is karma removed or am I still screwed?
I don't know, man. You know that? Have you ever seen This Is? You know what? Yes, you did. Have you ever seen This Is the End, Fink?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Jay Baruchel, Seth Rogen, James Franco, it's the apocalypse, right? And everybody that's good gets sucked up into heaven, and all the pieces of shit like stay down, right?
Yeah.
And they start saying really nice things about each other, and they're like, "Why are we not getting sucked into heaven yet?" And it's only when like they actually sacrifice themselves.
That's what Peter just did. There's what you're saying.
That's what he just did. Like, he just said something nice, thinking he'll get sucked up into heaven and karma's good, but still, like, absolutely not.
You have
He's
to
still
give me
with us.
You have to give me a break. It was an armpit injury.
Yeah.
It's like he like farted on himself and like tore a tailbone, even though it's a bone, you can't tear a bone, but it's like an armpit injury, really?
Yeah.
Not only that, the injury had major in it. So like how many Mets fans like had a heart attack before they read the full tweet? Because it was like major terrace or whatever it was. And it was like, it sounded horrible. And it's like day to day.
Yeah. Brutal.
So my next question, who are you more pissed at? And I'm going to go through all the guys who currently have a negative WAR. And there's some good players. First, I'm going to go with Tomas Nido because Omar Narvaez is out 8 to 9 weeks. Now he's the starter, but we'll talk about Francisco Alvarez later. He's rocking a negative 0.3 F4. He's slashing 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 through 9 plate appearances. So he's one. Jeff McNeil has a 562 OPS, negative 1 or negative 0.1 WAR, excuse me. We have Mark Canha, negative point WAR, hitting 160. And we have Eduardo Escobar hitting 100, slugging 100 at negative 0.4 WAR. Who's pissing you off the most?
Eduardo Escobar, without a doubt.
I wanted to hear it.
Of course. Because, I mean, I wanted Brett Beatty. I wanted Brett Beatty to start the season. Now he's dealing with the little thumb thing anyway. But, yeah, Eduardo Escobar, his at-bats, particularly against righties, which is the side he struggles with his left-handed swing, have just been awful. So bad. He's swinging a wiffle ball bat out there. Just does not look good. So Escobar, probably the top of that list. Like Nido, no one expects him to hit, so that's not a big deal. McNeil, I think everyone thinks is going to break out of it. Canha, I feel like, his at-bats haven't been horrible. He just hasn't really had a lot of luck so far. So it's Escobar is the guy that is in red Sharpie right now. He's getting a lot of hate.
And Jack, it makes sense though, right? Why Brett Beatty would start in the minor leagues. He's a big burly righty, can't hit right-handed pitching at all, really bad defender, not handsome. So I get why Brett Beatty started in the minor leagues, because Eduardo Escobar, even though, maybe he can't hit right-handed pitching, even though he sees it 2/3 of the time, but sometimes you roll with him, right? Because he's been in the league with the Brewers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I got Brett Beatty right?
You got him exactly right.
Yes.
I'm Googling the Rihanna lyric in Pour It Up. Dollar signs, all I see is dollar signs.
Yeah.
That's why Eduardo Escobar is in the lineup. Like, can we acknowledge that? So, I mean, I understand why they did it. Like, you've got that many millions committed to that guy for this year.
I don't know if that's why he's in the lineup. I really don't,
Why do you think he's in the? Well, obviously now, like Beatty's got a thumb thing going on. So
I don't think that this is a Mets team that's making decisions based on $10 million of salary when they, just ate $20 million on Cano last year and they ate all of McCann's contract to deal him. I think it's more a matter of, could we squeeze a year of service time out of Brett Beatty? Like
probably.
I think it was when they constructed the roster, they decided that they needed Tim LeCastro on it because they have Daniel Vogelback as the DH. They like the idea of in the 7th inning when Vogelback draws a walk, they could put LeCastro out there to steal a base. Then you get into a roster crunch. So I think it was a lot of things where, you sign Tommy Pham this offseason, so you need him on the roster. You need Yorme as your backup utility infielder. You need a backup catcher. You start to lose roster spots to get a pinch running specialist. And when you add it all together, you can say, Escobar had a great September. Escobar's a veteran leader. Beatty, if we keep in AAA until June 3rd, we get a year of service time and he hasn't played in AAA yet. You can just kind of talk yourself into it. I think it's a lot of things. I don't think it's specifically $10 million for Escobar.
Fair. Yeah. So it's June 3 that is Beatty's cutoff here. And he would be a Super 2 candidate, I think. I didn't realize last year he was on the big league IL, but that makes sense because he got hurt at the big league level. So he got 50 days of major league service time in 2022, which is a crazy high number considering he only played 11 games. So June 3 is a long time. Granted, like a thumb issue helps because that thing will nag for a while. And I don't think is JP Arencibia the AAA manager, or is he just like on the coaching staff?
I think you might be right about that. I think he is the manager.
I know Arencibia is on the Syracuse coaching staff. He may be the manager. If he is, then JP Arencibia can say, oh, you know what? Like, let's just keep Beatty out of the lineup for precautionary reasons for a couple days. My last negative question here before we get to Francisco Alvarez. You can throw away like the goddamn it, we're the Mets game 3 in Milwaukee when Garrett Mitchell walked it off 7-6. 10-9 in game 1, or sorry, 10-0 in game 1, 9-0 in game 2. So they're outscored 19-0. Game 1 was Freddie Peralta and Bryce Wilson, and they walked 6 times. They scattered base runners. 9-0, you're shut out by Wade Miley, Peter Strzelecki, who else? Kobe Milner, and Javi Guerra.
Okay, those are 4 really good pitchers, though, so you give them a break.
How frustrating was that game, Fink?
It was bad. It was bad. They were both bad. But yeah, no, they're extremely frustrating, and it's even more so when it's like so many. You see Brian Anderson just kills the Mets. There's nothing that Mets fans hate more than a former division rival who's like on a different team. It looks great. Speaking of handsome, Brian Anderson, huh?
Hot.
Yeah,
full blown hot.
Yeah, especially in the Brew. He looks way better in the Brewers uniform too than that Marlins uniform. Jesse Winker had a big series, so it was just a whole bunch of crap for 3 days for Mets fans. But again, early in the season, I'm not worried yet.
When do you get worried? When is the panic button? Obviously not yet. We're all
I'd probably say if the Marlins win 10-0 on the home opener, then I start worrying. That's
so it is soon.
So it could be soon. It could be soon.
Interesting.
And then I can come right back around. That's what it's like to be a Mets fan.
Interesting, though. I'm surprised it is that soon because we joke around. This team is really good. Verlander's going to come back. Kodai Senga did look good. Yeah. You expect Scherzer to bounce back. Peterson had a rough start against the Brewers, but he's fine. Cookie, I think, is only going to get better, too. And you look at the lineup, like Pete Alonso's, he has 3 home runs, but he's not going to be rocking like what's his OPS right now? His OPS is 877 because he's slugging, but he's hitting 192. Like Lindor's only going to get better, too. So I guess the reason we're making fun of Mets fans, the reason we're making fun of Phillies fans is because the panic button is being pressed too fast. So that's why I wanted to see when you actually became nervous, because you can't really say that you're nervous if the Mets lose to the Marlins in one game. Like it's April 7th.
Yeah. No, I honestly, it's you give a team until like June to really like start to panic. If the Mets are below 500 and we get to June, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think this team's too good. I think that Buck Showalter is going to get that team rolling at some point very soon. Like I think that's the difference that having Buck made last year is they never went on a big skid, and they could have a bad series, but generally they bounce back and find a way to win the next one. And I'm sure they do that this weekend against the Marlins. I'm sure they win at least 2 or 3.
So the Syracuse Mets had a great opening weekend in Worcester. Francisco Alvarez was part of that. Obviously, the headlines were about Beatty. Beatty goes down. Alvarez, though, 4 games in Syracuse, has hit a couple of bombs. He's OPSing over 1,000. But the last look on like SNY or national television that the Mets got of Francisco Alvarez was his 5 games last year when he went 2 for 12, and spring training when he went 3 for 28. Now, Narvaez is out for 2+ months. This is Alvarez's job. What do you expect from Francisco Alvarez when he does crack the lineup for the Mets? Do you expect growing pains, or do you think, hey, you know what? He kind of went through that already against big league competition. Let's just throw him in and he may swim.
I think that, I just did an emergency episode of my show that I'm in the middle of producing right now.
Sorry for taking you away from that.
I love an emergency episode on April 6th.
Had to. Got to. Alvarez, man. Wait till you see the numbers. You'll see why I did it. But look, I was hyped on that show, but I also said at the same time, like, this is not Alvarez earning his promotion to the big leagues. Like, he was in AAA for a reason. When we were in spring training, I had a lot of complaints about guys not making the team. I was talking about Beatty and Vientos. I was not talking about Francisco Alvarez. He needed that seasoning. At the same time, with a player this talented getting this big of a leeway, you think that the talent might just arrive early a little bit here. My expectation for Francisco Alvarez is to run into some home runs, but he's going to strike out a little bit more than he probably does in the minor leagues. And there's going to be growing pains for sure. I think that it's, going to be exciting to see him in the lineup for the home opener. I hope they do that. And I feel like he's the type of kid that can thrive in that more of a healthy landing spot than what we saw last year. What the Mets did to him last year was like malfeasance. Like it was horrible. His season's over. He's driving home after a great season where he finished in a triple, gets a call to go join the Mets in the middle of a pennant race that had spanned for months in the biggest series of the year in Atlanta against one of the toughest pitching staffs in baseball to face. Like, Alvarez comes up against Raisel Iglesias in the 8th inning, or, with just so much pressure on him. Now he's facing the Marlins in a home ballpark that's ready to fall in love with him. I think he's got a much better chance to succeed this time than he did last time, but he's still arriving earlier than we expected.
I have a question for you too about Francisco Alvarez, because I'm not very concerned about the bat, right? It might take a little while to get going, but he has such a special bat and he's going to run into home runs that at worst, he's a league average catcher offensively this year. I think at worst, because he has so much upside to be one of the better catchers in baseball, at least offensively. My concern, and we talked about this when we did our season previews of the National League East, and it's an older staff, right? You got the 2 Hall of Famers at the top. You got Kodai Senga making the transition from the MPB. You have Cookie Carrasco, who's been in the league a very long time, and David Peterson, who's trying to then transition to the rotation after multiple years in the bullpen. Do you think a young catcher like that, who they originally brought up to DH in that, cup of coffee that he had in the bigs, do you think he can shoulder the load of catching 5-6 days a week? That's where my concern comes in, because it's one thing to be a little bit, down defensively, and it's another thing for that to impact the pitching staff, right? So that's where my concern is. I'm curious your concern level of him defensively, because I'm not really concerned offensively. I think he's going to hit regardless.
I think that it's going to be a pretty healthy split to start out with him and Nito. I think they're not going to just throw him to the wolves. And I think he's going to get some time at DH. It's going to help that a little bit. I think another big thing is not the pitchers can use the pitch comm. I think that helps him too. Like, Max Scherzer's calling his own game. So, Alvarez can go back and catch him, and obviously on the frame pitches, but he doesn't have to worry about that aspect of it. It takes some of the thought out for him, which I think helps. I would imagine that Tomas Nido is going to catch all of Kodai Senga's starts because he already caught the first one. And I think that they're going to let him build that rapport with Nido. And I do think that Nito's still going to get behind the plate 2 to 3 times a week. I think Alvarez catches a couple, DHs a couple, and, he starts when he starts catching 5 times a week, it's because the bat is that undeniable that it just makes them that much better as a team that you deal with maybe a little bit of a loss on the defensive side.
Yeah. So my thought there is, you can hedge an inexperienced catcher with an experienced starting rotation and experienced relievers. And the Mets really have nobody that is newly thrown into the fire except Senga, which is why it makes a lot of sense for Nito, who is an experienced guy, to catch Senga. But I've got minimal concerns with Scherzer or Carrasco, even a guy like McGill or even David Peterson, who's figured out his way in Major League Baseball, throwing to Alvarez. The problem that you run into is if you've got young catcher, young arm, then nobody knows what the fuck's going on. But that's not really the case.
But here was my kind of concern, though, because to your point, yes, they are, veterans. They've been there before. Scherzer, I think, has been pitching since I was born. But new rules, right? Pitch clock, pitch calm, a lot of new stuff. So they're also adjusting to new rules while he's then adjusting and already not good defensively. That was my biggest concern with Alvarez. But again, go ahead, Fink.
I was just going to say, the thing is, Alvarez played in those rules last year in the minors,
Great point.
He's got some experience with it. And, I think the one thing is wondering about how he's going to control the running game, that's becoming a little more apparent, and early returns, but he threw out 3 of 5 to start a season in Syracuse. So I think he's been working really hard on the defense because he knew that was the obstacle to get to the big leagues. So I don't think that he's going to be some just disaster behind the plate. Is he going to be above average? I think that might be, a little bit early to expect him to be that, but can he be passable back there? I think so. And it's really going to come down to the obvious question. Is he going to hit right now?
I have one last question, and maybe I might spark a couple more after Jack gives his last question. What's been the most surprising thing, right? Because we make fun of the Mets in this episode, and we're talking about some guys with some negative WAR totals to start the year. Who has been the guy who you watch and say, what the hell is going on? Like, yeah, we probably expected Eduardo Escobar to struggle, right? We expected Tomas Nido to not hit. But who are some guys who have struggled so far? And maybe, Lindor's a guy, 0.0 WAR or something like that. Like, who's the player or scenario where you say, man, I just did not see that coming into the year so far?
It was the Max Scherzer start against the Brewers. I mean, I was there for the first one on opening day, and he gave up a homer to Soler, but overall he was sharp throughout that game. To see him, I mean, he got homered on 3 times in a row. Max Scherzer. So that was, I guess, the biggest one for me. Other than that, I mean, you could say like a Jeff McNeil struggling, but we've seen him at times struggle, and it's so early. Like, I give a lot of hitters some leeway at the start of a season to judge them too quickly. I'm surprised Tommy Pham swung it well.
That's awesome.
I'm surprised about that. But
I was thinking that the Tommy Sham nickname was going to come very quickly, but he's actually been pretty good. I like the answer about Scherzer too, because he is an older pitcher. You don't expect that early on, right? I could see it's September, right? He's thrown 160 innings to this point, and his velocity dropped, and you're like, all right, we got to rest him up for the postseason. Now he's struggling. That makes sense. But after a full offseason, it's not like he played in the World Baseball Classic or anything. It's not like they were overextending him in spring training. It's Max Scherzer. You're supposed to deliver opening day.
Yeah. No, it was couple of rough starts for him. So we'll see. The other thing too is watching Cookie's velocity dip well below 90% for a good part of his last start. That's another thing that you're at 36 years old and the velo dip like that. It's something you're going to be paying attention to.
Yeah. So last one for me. I know that in the NBA, we look at league fits a lot, like what guys roll up to the venue in. And there are Instagram accounts dedicated to that, like league fits, everything like that. Francisco Alvarez is going to push the boundaries when it comes to league fits rolling up to Citi Field. So I ask you to grade this fashion sense where he's got red polo, torn jeans, and the over-the-shoulder satchel type thing. Common look, he's kind of drippy. So if you could just give me a rating of Alvarez's fashion sense, 1 through 10.
It honestly looked like he has one leg in that picture. Did anyone else notice that?
Yeah. I don't understand ripped jeans. I don't understand. I've never understood that look, ever.
Hey, what's the common thing? Like, why are you paying more for less fabric?
Yeah.
I love that joke because it makes sense. It's like, why? It doesn't look good. It's like, oh, look at me. My clothes are broken.
Who does Lindor has some good fits too?
Yeah,
I bet he doesn't wear
Lindor's
ripped
a big.
jeans.
I think Escobar sometimes shows up pretty flashy in some of these games. There's a couple of guys, and obviously Pete Alonso. I mean, always fit king.
That was a crazy fit that he had on opening day. Starling Marte too. Totally forgot about Starling Marte.
Best chain in the game, Mickey Mouse. That a necklace that must be like $100,000, easy.
That's how good the Mets season is going right now. We're talking about their pregame fits when they go into the game and strike out 3 times.
You know what? I am going to watch the hell out of Trevor Rogers and Kodai Senga at 4:10 on Saturday. That's going to be a really fun game to watch in New York.
And if you guys don't hit Trevor Rogers, I could understand pressing the panic button because he is giving up bomb after bomb coming over from last year. I really think that he is a good pitcher. At least he has good stuff. But again, Mets struggle off lefties.
It didn't the first time out against Rogers, but
good point. Good point. We'll see. But Fink, really appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you for coming into the hot stove and not making moves, but a hot stove in terms of it's boiling in Queens, but they'll be fine. We all know they'll be fine. And to all the Mets fans listening who are now super pissed at Jack and I for reaming our guy Ryan, it's all in good fun. But sometimes you deserve to get reamed. And for some reason, Fig, you are the poster boy for Mets with the Mets flag in your background, the LFGM shirt on, and the Rumble Ponies hat. So I appreciate you.
Yep, of course, guys. Anytime.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Make sure to get your Just Baseball merch in the episode description. It is the best way to support this podcast. Check out all the different podcasts on the Just Baseball Network in the link tree below. I don't really know if we have anything else to plug other than make sure to check out the Twitch stream from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern every single weekday, where we go over all the games and give you the best bets. And if you want to make some bets, make sure to use the king of sportsbooks, BetMGM. And for all new users, if you wager $10 on any MLB game, you will get $200 instantly. And with that, thank you, everybody.